When you're ready.
Really?
I have no idea what I'm going to be doing, guys.
I don't know what I'm doing here.
Okay,
This is like
I'm
the
going to
Twilight
take it on
episode
faith that
version.
we're rolling now, and welcome to episode number 8 of Karp Describes, the first official spin-off of Niederman Describes. Previously,
we should announce ourselves.
Previously on this show, I threw a curveball to my boys, and we've switched it up a little bit for our for a final the final episode of our season. My name is Dan McCoy. I am the facilitator.
My name is Jack Karp. I suppose I'm the talent now.
And I'm Michael Niederman, and I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah. So typically on this show, I would be showing Mike a series of YouTube clips in order to spark conversation about the world, about entertainment, about arts and culture and politics. And we just sort of freeform it. This is an unscripted show. I'm going to do something similar with Jack for the first part of this episode. And we're going to see what comes out of it. So,
I can only imagine.
Is that enough setup? Does everyone feel caught up? If this is the first episode that you're watching, great. You may be confused. So are we.
Wait. Jack, you only get out of it what you put into it. So what did we put into Jack?
Yes. So we're going to put my earbuds into Jack.
All right, I think these work.
And then we're
And then am I just describing what I'm seeing? Is that exactly
You've watched me do this for 7 episodes.
But I don't know what you actually do.
You have not been paying attention one bit. What do we got here, Jack?
All right. This is something about Morocco. I see the shadows of camels walking in the desert. Now I see the feet of camels walking. Now I see the head of a camel. It's like a Marlboro cigarette ad. I have actually seen this. I have been to this place. I have been on this trip. I have pictures that look just like this. These are guys in Morocco. These are Moroccans who live in the Sahara Desert who are guiding tourists basically on camels through the Moroccan desert. And these are now tourists who are wearing stars on their heads. The shadows are beautiful. These are sand surfers, basically tourists riding down dunes of sand on their butts in the middle of the Sahara Desert. Now they're off-roading on their jeeps, and basically these are tourists going through Morocco, going through the Sahara Desert. That is a monkey taking an orange. That is a snake and a scorpion.
Did you see snakes and scorpions?
I saw scorpions. I did not see snakes.
Say tourist again.
Tourist. There are tons of cats. This is Marrakesh. Oh, actually, that's a Casbah. I've been there. There are tons of cats for some reason, stray cats in Marrakesh. This is the Casbah, where I've also been. And oh my God, I've been to that town. Oh, those are the tanneries in Marrakesh. I've been to all of these places. There's a dead goat.
That was a camel head hanging from
No, it was a goat.
That was a goat.
It was a goat.
Hold up.
I'm pretty sure that was a goat.
How come he gets to go back? I never got to go back.
Everything is upside down now. We're in the.
That's
a camel.
Right.
That's a
Okay,
camel.
that is a camel head. You are correct. I
Do
stand
people
corrected.
eat camels?
They do not eat camels. They do eat goats, though.
Why was the head hanging?
I have no idea. I've seen goat heads hanging in the bush.
Oh, it's a beautiful sunset or sunrise. I'm not sure.
Can you milk a camel?
I imagine you can. They are mammals.
Okay.
Now you see the Sahara Desert empty, the wind blowing the sand, and here's some more tourists on like a lot of camels, and there's some more shadows of camels. And this is one of the palaces. Oh, and that's the Atlas Mountains.
That's a white
lady. That is a very attractive redhead who's on this trip.
Don't be creepy. Don't be creepy.
And this is another Casbah out, going towards the Sahara Desert. This is basically, I'm watching basically someone's vacation slides is what this is. I am watching someone's vacation slides. Tourists on camels playing with monkeys walking in the sand.
Okay, this is going on forever. I'm going to cut it off here.
It is going on forever, but they're cute.
All right. Jack, tell us about you just watched someone else's videos of Morocco. Tell us about your experience with it.
My experience looked a lot like that, actually. I went on a trek with some friends. We hiked for 4 days through the Atlas Mountains, across the mountains into the Sahara, and then we spent 2 days in the Sahara Desert riding camels. I actually recognized a couple of the places that were in that video. Morocco is a really interesting place to travel. I really enjoyed it. People were very friendly. It's very hospitable.
Did they know you were Jewish? I'm seriously asking.
I did not advertise that. I don't know if it would have mattered.
Could they? But they could tell just by looking at you.
I'm going to ignore that.
Okay.
Go on. Jack has the floor.
Thank you. I found it, and I've had this experience in other more developing parts of the world. It's a very intense place to travel. Lots of color. lots of crowds, lots of kind of sensory overload, people wanting to sell you stuff and not taking no for an answer. There's a lot less of a sense of physical space. People have no problem kind of walking up to you and grabbing you.
Yeah.
But as you saw in those images of the desert, some of the parts of Mongolia are of Morocco. See Mongolia there. Hint of what's coming next. Some of the parts of Morocco are just absolutely gorgeous. The desert is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And it's so different from what we see here, in New York on a day-to-day basis. It's probably one of the most diametrically opposed places you can find.
Okay.
Oh.
I guess we're doing
more travel videos.
We're doing Tibet next, or Mongolia?
So this is Mongolia. It says Mongolia on it, so it's cheating. So we're seeing basically horses now running across the steppes. And that's kind of like a Buddhist palace, and this is kind of mountains and steppes, and lots of green, lots of rivers, and just huge herds of semi-wild horses running across the steppes.
Whoa, tell me about that swirling thing.
Okay, so those were horses.
Did you witness that?
I did not witness that in particular. What I'm guessing this is they do like a horse roundup every year, and that looks like what this is. So these are Mongolian farmers, for lack of a better word, ranchers who are rounding up horses. The horses in Mongolia are semi-wild, so basically they don't have stables, they don't have hay. They ride their horses, and when they're done riding the horses, they literally get off and take the saddle off, smack it on the ass, and it just runs off. And in the morning, when they want to ride it again, they go and wrangle it. And the horses are just kind of on their own. This is a gear camp, which is basically, what Russians call yurts, those big round white tents that get set up in camps around Mongolia. This is, I'm assuming, Ulaanbaatar, which is like the only city that has actual buildings in Mongolia. So we saw some Mongolian families in like jeeps and trucks. Those are more gears.
That's a kite.
That is a kite. That is correct. They have kites everywhere in the world, including Mongolia. I was not in this part of Mongolia. It doesn't look familiar, but basically it's a lot of gear because Mongolia is a very nomadic culture. Most people do not live in one set place, with the exception of the city Ulaanbaatar. These gears or yurts are designed to be taken down or put up in a matter of hours. And at the end of a season, they get taken down, they get loaded up on the backs of horses, and the family goes on to whatever the next spot is, depending on the season, the time of year. Where our food is going to be. There's very limited agriculture. There's not a whole lot of fruits and vegetables that grow in Mongolia. The diet is mostly dairy and meat.
What was your adventure like when you went there?
Me and a close friend of mine, same friend I went to Morocco with actually, we did a 2.5-week horseback riding trek across northern Mongolia. So the goal, the point was to kind of live for 2 weeks the way Mongolians live. So basically, we were riding horseback all day, and at night we were either camping out in tents or staying in gear camps, like the ones in the video, eating Mongolian food, just seeing as much of the country as possible, but traveling and living the way the people who live in Mongolia do, as opposed to like taking buses and staying in hotels and stuff
Mike has
like
a
that.
finger.
You're a vegetarian, Jack.
I am a vegetarian.
What did you do in Mongolia?
I ate meat. I did not have a choice. I did not have a choice. Basically, their diet consists entirely of meat and dairy. That's it.
How did you like it?
You know what? That's a really interesting question. I did like it. I found that...
Because meat is delicious.
Well, not because meat is delicious, but because their meat is healthy. When I eat meat here, which on occasion I will break and have meat for one reason or another, I will get sick. But in Mongolia, I ate meat and I did not get sick, and I will tell you why. Because the way we ate meat is, so it was us on the trek. There were like 7 of us, and then we had like 4 wranglers for the horses, and then we had like a cook and a tour guide. And one of the wranglers would literally go over to the next farm, the next gear camp that was over on the other side of the hill or whatever, and would literally buy a live goat from whoever lived there, a goat that had lived its entire life on grass with no antibiotics and no hormones, completely literally locally sourced organic goat. And he would bring a live goat to where we were camping, and we would watch him kill it. and then he would cut it up and cook it, and we would eat it. And it was completely natural, and it was completely organic, and it was completely healthy. And so I don't think it's actually meat that's unhealthy. I think it's our meat that's unhealthy. I think the way they eat meat is probably very healthy.
Because ours is pumped full of hormones.
Right, exactly. There's no drugs, no antibiotics,
Yeah.
no hormones, no chemicals.
And also, you try to eat that kind of meat now, when it's available in America. It's expensive.
Right, of course. It's probably very expensive if you want to do that here. But in Mongolia, that's what everybody does. That's what they eat.
I have another question for you. Because I don't know that much about your life, Jack, but I know that you are as underemployed as the rest of us.
Yes.
How expensive were these trips?
These particular places that travel are actually not that expensive. What ends up being really expensive about these kinds of trips is the getting there. The flights are expensive. But once you get to a place like Morocco, like Mongolia, other places I've been, like Laos or India, once you're there, it's a lot cheaper than America. Food is cheaper, hotels are cheaper, transportation is cheaper. It's really just the flight there.
And so you just save up a lot.
No, I use credit cards. If I remember correctly, I think the flight to Mongolia, if I remember correctly, was somewhere between $2,000 and $2,500.
Jesus!
And it was like a 24-hour trip. Like, there are no direct flights to Ulaanbaatar. Like, that's like a multi-flight trip that with like 12-hour layovers in Beijing kind of thing.
But it does sort of balance out, like you said, because like my experience with that sort of thing is India, and like your dollar goes a long way when you're there. You don't feel like you're spending anything for a lot of stuff.
Yes.
And
Interestingly,
so
my experience with that was Ecuador, and the dollar there is the dollar. They use American dollars there.
Really?
So the dollar goes kind of like, you're like in a cheap city, but it's not that cheap.
Let's go to an expensive city now.
Awesome. Cool.
Boop.
So this is Tokyo, and I know that because, again, it says it.
Well, also, you should know what Tokyo looks like.
I do know what Tokyo looks like because I've also been to Tokyo. So this is video of Japan. It seems that looks like Kyoto. So it looks like almost kind of like a tourist like teaser of Japan with a lot of different pictures. This is like a fish market. This is weaving. We're in like a weaving factory now. We're looking at a bunch of textiles and scrolls, Japanese scrolls. That is Kyoto. So you have like the geishas in like the old city of Kyoto. And now you're in an arcade with a bunch of like pimply-faced teenagers playing video games.
They're all virgins.
Of course they are. And this is like nighttime in like Tokyo or Osaka with like lots of like electric billboards and flashing lights. And this is a robot who looks more real than many of the women I've gone out with on dates. And now we're in a sex shop, I think. I think this is a sex shop.
No,
it's a toy shop.
It's a toy shop. It's
There's
Japan.
a difference.
There's
a difference, Jack.
Oh, God.
This is a waterfall of
This is a bad idea.
pagodas. Sorry.
You're the one that put him in that
Now
chair.
we're seeing a tea ceremony.
Everything was fine with me in the middle.
And this is like one of the bamboo forests. With some women in traditional kimonos, and this is, a tourist kind of like looking out over the mountains of Japan. And it's very beautiful, and there's like mist-covered hills and stars, and lots of like, look at all the great culture that we have in Japan, dancing. This is archery. I did not see any archery when I was in Japan, but apparently archery in Japan is a thing.
That's a good place to stop.
Okay, good. Let's do it. Let's stop.
Tell us about your experience in Japan.
Japan was, like you were saying, is very different from traveling in some place like Morocco or Mongolia. It's not underdeveloped by any stretch. It's incredibly developed. It's very crowded. It's very modern. It's very expensive. Tokyo is like what New York should be.
Yeah.
It's incredibly modern. It's incredibly well done, it's efficient, it's moneyed. The thing that I remember most about Japan is the trains. Their trains are spotless and fast and efficient, and you stand on the the subway platforms aren't just the subway platforms aren't just air conditioned, but they have malls with restaurants and bookstores.
I don't like that. I like the fact that New York City subways are shitty.
Why?
Because it's interesting.
The Japanese trains are timed.
You don't use them that much.
Yeah,
exactly. I use them more than
Exactly.
you do.
No, you don't.
Are you kidding?
I'm on the subway. How many times do you ride the subway in a day? How many times do you ride the subway?
Yeah, but how long do you spend on the subway? We spend like 2 hours a day on the subway.
Yeah, we live in Distance Park.
Well, I probably spend an hour total on the subway because I go from client to client to client. So
But all your clients are in Manhattan.
Yes, by design.
Exactly. But the Japanese trains are like timed to the second. They have them timed so that like one train comes into the station at the exact moment, so you have just enough time to get from one train to the next train you're connecting to.
So you're saying
and
that
then it leaves.
it's kind of fascist because the trains run on time.
The trains run. It's not fascist, but yes, the trains run on time. And the toilets are amazing.
The toilets run on time too?
The toilets run all the time. The toilets are amazing.
What's so great about the toilet?
Oh my God, the toilets have like music and white noise, and like you can control the angle of the water from the bidet and the temperature.
I love
like
a
they have
bidet.
control.
Love a
toilets
bidet.
I've never had a bidet. How did your ass get dry?
They're dry. They're blowers. The toilets there are like spaceships.
Yeah,
they
but
have
like,
remote controls.
I've never
with,
done
like,
one with a blower. You just use a towel.
No, these have towels. They have like remote controls with all these buttons.
Is there like a guy whose job is to like just lick your bunghole after like that's part of the toilet
I'm
too?
sure if you're very
Yes,
rich.
that's part of the whole experience.
Yes, that is every Japanese bathroom I was in that had.
And they're heated too, right?
They are heated. They play music.
Are they raised up?
They will, so that the lid will go up and down automatically without you having to touch it.
No, that's how the toilet's
Will it rise?
Or
No,
because
they're
like,
normal toilet height.
Well, see, the normal toilet height is a bad height. Everyone needs a short toilet, or at least a toilet with a stool to put you got to squat. So
Squatty potty.
The squatty potty.
Yeah.
Why? What are you talking about?
Because it's better for it. It makes for a cleaner
poop
evacuation.
You don't have to try so hard.
The Japanese don't have squatty potties. Chinese do, but the Japanese have normal American potties.
Well, I mean, the Chinese. We're going to talk.
Or do we have normal Japanese potties?
No, I think the West probably started.
So they
to sit down
improved on our.
They probably improved on our design.
Yeah, we're like,
yes.
that's good enough.
Yeah, it's a whole,
kind of like we
yeah.
were at the subways. We're like, fuck it, it moves
enough.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Mm.
Good enough.
So the reason why we're doing this right now
I am curious.
I have no idea what I'm doing here.
is to center Jack
Which we
for just a moment.
Thank
who
you.
we love, and as much as I love to mess with Jack and put a plant on him, Jack is one of my favorite people.
Thank you.
And I
And I
just
don't
wanted
say
to
that often
illustrate
enough.
the fact that Jack travels a lot, and Jack has had lots of adventure.
He's gone places.
around the globe and ridden horseback in the Mongolian steppes, ridden camels in the Sahara Desert, ridden a bidet in Kyoto. Like, Jack has ridden all of these things. And now you were riding center on blank describes. And I
Karp
applaud you for
Describes.
that. You don't just sit at home all day watching movies.
Thank you.
That's
No,
me.
That's my,
That's me too.
Okay,
to a
Jack,
certain
where
degree.
are you going next?
that is an excellent question. I've
Can I
been
come?
toying with that. I don't know. I have a sudden urge to see the Northern Lights. I'm thinking I want to go someplace this winter to see the Northern Lights.
Yeah.
Wherever that might be. I actually would love to go to Greenland just because it's like the weirdest place to go,
Right.
but like it seems really difficult to
But
get
like
to Greenland.
Iceland, probably there's like more
Iceland,
to do.
it's very easy to get to, and it's.
You've been
I've
there,
been to
right?
Iceland actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Or like any like Norway, Sweden, Finland. You can see them Alaska. You can see them in Alaska without even leaving the country.
Sure.
But I would like to go to Greenland, although it's very difficult to get to Greenland.
Why is it very
apparently.
different? It's just right next to Canada.
Well, because there are no flights there. Like you have to go through like Copenhagen, and they only go like once a week.
Does anyone live in Greenland?
Some people do, yeah.
Why?
Greenlanders.
Because they were born there.
Yeah, but like there's
And they never left.
Yes, and in 30 years, global warming
There's,
will make
like,
Greenland a paradise.
I think there's fewer people in Greenland than there are in like Harlem.
That's probably true.
Wow. Well, there's a lot of people in Harlem.
Right.
Have
Yeah.
you been up there? There's a lot of people up there in Harlem. They're
there are.
all over the place, just people. You walk down the street, there are people in Harlem. You go to a store in Harlem, you know what's there? People. You leave the store, people. Are you saying that's what Greenland's like?
No.
Well, then why did you compare Harlem to Greenland?
I don't know. I just picked a neighborhood.
Random neighborhood.
I was like, what's near us right now? I could have said Upper West Side, but I didn't. I said Harlem.
But you know what?
Is that problematic? Did I just like step in it?
No.
No.
Am I gonna get called out?
No.
On that, no. Switch seats.
All right.
Let's. Oh,
All right,
this
so there's
is
a guy in a hat with a gun, and now
John
another guy with
Goodman
another
in
gun.
the
John
hallway.
Goodman shooting another guy, and there's flames behind him.
I'll show you the life of the mind. This is one of the great Coen brothers bellowing fat men scenes.
John Goodman is now running down a hallway he can barely fit in, and another guy in a suit and fedora
That's
is running. You're the
sizes.
one who said it was a fat man scene.
Because this is a theme in the Coen brothers. They have a bellowing large man.
Just
And-
like
oh, he shot him in the
just
fucking
like David
ankle.
Lynch has midgets, the Coen brothers have fat men.
That's also sizes. And he's gonna. I love this. Like the fire.
Why is everything on fire?
Because he's in hell.
But it's in that building.
And
There's Barton Fink.
Clifford Odets, essentially.
Basically.
Clifford Odets wrote one of my favorite plays, Awake and Sing, and also Waiting for Lefty.
Those are very good plays.
Yes, and now here we go. He's got the shotgun in the guy's face.
What does he say?
He says, Heil Hitler.
And now he screams.
And then boom.
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 And like the impotent Jewish intellectual writer he is, he cannot go out into the violence. He can only stay in the room and observe and be separate from it. He is only in his mind. He is not in his body.
John Goodman is tired, though. He has had a long night.
And if you really want to talk fucked up twist endings, this movie takes the cake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the first half of Barton Fink is slow as molasses. And then Barton Fink sleeps with
Judy
Davis, who is the wife slash mistress of the Southern alcoholic writer.
The William Faulkner.
William Faulkner, played by the dad in Frasier, who I saw who I saw a couple weeks ago in Chicago. He was in Steppenwolf. And he he sleeps with her, and then she dies, and blood seeps out. But the Barton Fink is one of the great movies about writing, about writer's block. The Coen brothers wrote Barton Fink while they were trying to write another one of their movies,
Miller's Crossing.
Which is my favorite Coen brothers movie.
And they had writer's block, so they wrote a movie about writer's block.
Yeah.
And so I think we're going to be seeing another movie about writing. Is that right, Dan?
Earbuds in.
Earbuds in.
This is a quick one. This is just a favorite of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Had to throw it in there.
Don't speak. Don't speak. Bullets Over Broadway with John Cusack and Diane Wiest. Wiest. She won the Oscar for this.
Yeah.
And this is a Woody Allen movie. Woody Allen married his daughter and raped another one of his daughters, allegedly.
She's just one of my favorite diva characters of all time.
Yes,
She's just so good. And then we can just...
And another movie about what it means to be a writer,
Yes.
because he thinks he's a writer, but he can't write. And he is, like not that he can't write, he just can't write. And he is a slave to traditional morality. And then in comes Chaz Palminteri.
Again.
Are you sure it isn't
Joe
Joe Mantegna?
Yes. Who is a gangster, but can write because he doesn't abide by traditional morality. And gee, I wonder why Woody Allen made that movie. But I agree. I believe the artist, I believe the writer, and especially in this day of age where men who are awful are being publicly shamed, I do believe that often the artist is not just allowed to, but kind of should be encouraged to test morality.
I agree with that. I mean, that's...
But does that come... What happens when that is at the expense of someone else's safety or autonomy?
Well, that sucks for that person.
Mm-hmm. But do you think that it's like? Do you think terrible behavior is justified because I'm an artist?
No, if you're an asshole, you're an asshole. And there are plenty of artists who are wonderful human beings, but there are also plenty of artists who were brilliant artists and raging assholes.
Yeah. Hemingway was a raging asshole.
And that's always like I have always had trouble with the excuse of, oh, well, he's a tortured artist. He's he's got all the feels. It's all blah blah blah, and that is somehow connected to the talent. I do think that things overlap, like talent and temperament.
I don't know
can overlap, but I don't think that they are connected to one another.
I don't know if it's talent connected to the talent, but I think it's also connected to the drive.
But can there not be people who are driven who are not also destroyers of other people?
Most people who are driven are destroyers.
You think so?
Most successful people are douchebags. I think that is actually, that's what makes you be successful. Because there are, for every one successful artist, there's probably 10,000 other artists who are just as talented, but they weren't assholes enough to become successful.
Not assholes, let's just say driven. And by driven, I mean focused. But let's take Miles Davis, probably one of the great geniuses of all time, a man that changed jazz irrevocably 3 times in his career, and was known for being so intensely focused that if he was walking into the club and you would say, "Hey Miles, glad that you're here," he would say, he would just unleash a torrent of bile upon you because you were trying to get into his space. Or take Lou Reed, another person whom I'm hugely enamored of his work of art. After he died, they basically said he was a monster. Fucking monster, who abusive and racist. Monsters walk among us.
Yeah.
And we're in charge. We're being led by a monster right now. But this monster doesn't know how to create anything. All he knows how to do is destroy. Maybe our art has gotten watered down to the point that monsters don't feel like they can create anymore. Monsters just need to destroy.
I think that there is a certain amount of there's an intolerance towards the artist as monster, to the Miles Davis you just described, or the Lou Reed,
or the Hemingway.
Yeah, and I don't think that the place that I'm in. I showed us clips specifically that are about playwrights.
Yes,
like Barton Fink is a playwright. The John Cusack character and the Chaz Malpenteri character actually discovers that he's a playwright, and it's about playwrights trying to navigate within
the straight
who
world.
Who are basically nice guys. Barton Fink is basically he's sort of a nebbish.
Yeah.
As is John Cusack is playing the Woody Allen like Woody Allen would have been playing that part.
And I want to say
that
John Cusack is a nice guy in the modern sense of the world, the pejorative sense.
Well, he always plays the nice guys.
Yeah, sometimes.
Even when he's playing like an assassin, which he does in Grosse Pointe Blank, he's a professional assassin. He's still he's got self-doubt and he's in therapy and he's kind of.
Well, I mean, John Cusack will and forever be the who is he in Say Anything?
Right. I don't remember the name.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, Lloyd Dobler.
Yeah.